Before we begin, let's just accept that I am a terrible person. Once I say that, I feel free to then say anything that I want to, because I warned you all. Anyway, hi everyone, my name is Charlie, and as the weeks get on, my hair gets worse. Firstly, welcome to a lot more people. Thanks to Katie over at Books and Things, who recommended my channel last week, being the amazingly incredible human being that she is. I realised that there are a lot more of you here. Once you get to know me, you might disappear. And that's okay. Should I introduce myself? No. I've told you my name, and that's about all you need in this day and age to make an opinion about a person. I also felt like, since there were so many new people here, that I ought to actually make a video showing my face, because last week was just filled with Doris and making sure that the entirety of our Doris was online for people to go and peruse and listen to. And the reason behind that was because I was certain that the government were going to announce that people had to go back to work this week. And that hasn't happened yet. I'm still furloughed. I am still at home. I don't know when the shop will open. I don't know what's going on. There's still this great uncertainty there. And so I thought I'd share the remainder of my book and get it there because I didn't know what was going on with the world. I also felt a bit drained by making videos every day. I'm aware that I was making too much content, that people might be feeling overwhelmed. I talked about feeling overwhelmed with all of the books that I had to read, and yet I was still uploading content for people to watch, and I thought maybe people might feel overwhelmed and like they have to watch my videos. Whereas I thought with Doris, a route out, like unless they've listened to the previous videos, they don't necessarily have to listen to those ones. I don't know what I was thinking. I also recorded a Woolgathering video last Tuesday that you'll never see because I was just so mean. There are some new neighbours, not on this street, but on a different street, but their children are incredibly loud, and it was getting to me in that video, as were the dogs that were fighting. I wasn't having any of it in this video. So that video won't see the light of day. I enjoyed taking the near fortnight off that I technically have had because you haven't been seeing my face. And yeah, so I am thrilled that there are a few new people around these parts who happen to maybe want to hear my opinions on books. And so, hello, how are you? I hope you're doing well. I also got to spend the week reading. And in this video that you will not see, I talked about how I had to finish reading The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I was buddy reading that book with Abby of Abby Mac Reads, and throughout we were both thoroughly enjoying the book, liking the mystery aspect, coming up with theories as to where the story would go. And it's one of the things I like about buddy reads is how interactive they can be and how you can dissect things. It's why when we buddy read Melmoth last year, I ended up feeling so much more about that book than I would have done had I not buddy read it. Unfortunately, the ending really annoyed me to the point that the book ended up disappointing me, and whereas I thought it was going to be a favourite and I'd be going out and getting a physical copy, I am quite happy to forget about the book. And this was all due to something that happened towards the end, and the ending really killed it for me. So that's a shame. I also said that I really wanted to focus on reading The Eighth Life by Nino Haratischvili. This is a book that was longlisted for the Booker International Prize. It didn't make it to the shortlist. Eric of Eric Carl Anderson did an interview with the author and the translators on Friday, and the translators are Charlotte Collins and Ruth Martin. That is a really incredible video on Eric's channel, all about how the author came up with the book and how the translators went about translating it. And so I recommend that you go and watch that. I was trying to finish the book in time for the video, but I didn't. You can see that I portioned out all the parts that I had left to read, and I still have 300 pages of this book left. But I feel like unless something drastic happens towards the end, this could be a new favourite book of mine. And it's due to the fact that it is a book that spans most of the 20th century. It discusses war, but it does it from the perspective of this one family, and I am finding myself really enjoying that nostalgic quality of the book. It reminds me of my own family, and I've talked often about how my mum's grandmother had 6 sisters, and I think 3 were alive when I was born, and then, but I can only remember 3 of the sisters, my great grandmother and 2 aunties. But there's this great sense within this book of that familial tradition of telling stories and recreating our ancestors' lives through the stories we tell of our family. And that is something that I have wanted to do in fiction for such a long time, but I haven't felt like I have the required skills as a writer to do that yet. Something else that the book does that I am particularly appreciating is the folklore and spiritualism that it brings in, because I do believe that as families we come up with our own beliefs based on what has happened to our family before and the stories that we've told of each other and about our acquaintances, and our behaviours can mimic ancestors unconsciously. I am really enjoying that part of this book and the reminiscing that this book causes me to do. It also helps that the writing is all... I don't like to use the phrase lyrical writing because I don't feel as though that means anything, but there is something within the prose that I adore. And I think that there is maybe something poetic in the prose and rhythmic, and I just think that it's incredibly well done, that even though the book is over 900 pages long, there is this sense of reliability I'm finding. I never used to appreciate long books, but for some reason over the last few weeks I'm finding there's this sense of the reliable and something that I can go back to and take my time on, and that it's going to be there. I'm thoroughly enjoying the process of reading this, and I'm finding that due to the fact that it's about a whole family, you can end up sympathising with characters in the beginning, and then they'll have actions that feel completely characteristic, but I end up disagreeing with them and thinking, how have you turned into this person? And that's just great. And it's beautiful and brilliant, and I think that I might have found a new favourite, and I wish I owned a copy, because this will have to go back to the library one day when they eventually reopen. Strangely enough, there is something within The Eighth Life that gets mentioned in The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami, and this was translated by J. Rubin. I am supposed to be buddy reading this with Dane of Dane Reads, but I happen to have skipped ahead and finished reading the book, and so I'm going to have to send him a message to tell him that I did that. Basically, this book also ends up mentioning aspects of World War II that are mentioned in The Eighth Life, but from an alternative perspective. I didn't know that going into this book, but it's been great to read and see a different side to that. And unfortunately, I don't like this book as much as I like The Eighth Life, but I do like the absurdity within here. I don't think I'll ever reread it. I think that maybe I would have cut about 350 pages of this book. I'm not really sure what the point of the book was, but I know that Murakami has fans the world over. He doesn't need me as a fan, and what I appreciate about his books is that they have an air of absurdity about them, and they are well written, fast reads, and even though they're not for me, if I saw another one, I'd pick it up as a bit of light reading. Which leaves me with some other books. So, on my Kindle, I am reading The Odd Women by George Gissing. I am behind on the read-along that is being hosted by Katie of Books and Things and Marissa of Blatantly Bookish. And by far behind, I mean that I think I got to day 3 of chapters. So I have a lot of catching up to do, but that is how I plan on spending my Wednesday. Again, nostalgia is playing a part in how I feel about this book, and there is a lot of me reminiscing at the moment, so I think I'm appreciating the books set during the 20th century because they are reminding me of the recent past, and in doing that I find myself reminded of my relatives, both here and gone. Indeed, the other day I ended up going through my parents' record collection for no other reason than I just wanted to see them, and I find that seeing my parents' records almost gives me a sense of the people that they were before I came along, and it's always a strange thing to kind of navigate in my own head, because you have to think about the fact that your parents had a life. I will never know the type of people that my parents were before I came along, or indeed before I was an adult, because who can say they know who their parents are when their parents are still parenting? I feel like there's a bit in your lives where it diverts and you're just adults on an equal playing field, and it's strange to quantify. I enjoyed that, and in terms of The Odd Women, it's nothing to do with my parents, but The Odd Women, with it being about these sisters, again, it reminds me of my great-grandmother and her sisters, and just the fact that they were also very strong-willed, independent women. Indeed, my great-grandmother was 37 when she got married and had my nan, and that was all because she'd reached this point where she didn't think that she would get married, that she would kind of parent her sisters. So I just have a great amount of nostalgia that is fueling how I feel about these books at the moment. I did happen to start Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and this was translated by Jeffrey Truslow. I don't know. This book has caused me some anxiety that I didn't expect the book to cause me. I can't say why it did that, because that would be a spoiler. And it's not even like an anxiety-inducing thing, but there was just something that caught onto my fear of being trapped that meant that I had to put the book down because I couldn't bear the idea of anyone else risking something to go back in time. That's as much as I will say about it. The writing's good. It's a fast novel. I think I'll finish it today because it's, again, one of those books that's just 2 pages a minute. I'll have it done this evening whilst I'm just sat waiting for everyone to go to bed. So there's that one. I do believe that it might be a one and done type book, but I'm hopeful that I'll enjoy the experience. And then, more books. All I'm going to talk about, it seems, is books today. I got some books in the post. So I am still trying to learn Italian. And today marks 1 month since I started trying to learn Italian for the second time. Previously, in 2015, before I went to Rome, I tried to learn Italian, and then I had a bit of a bad time whilst I was there due to situations beyond my control that I didn't think of beforehand. And so I didn't use my Italian whilst I was there. And also I'd like to say that I didn't actually focus as much on learning Italian then, and I thought that Duolingo might teach me fluency. Since I started learning Italian again, I have recognised that that app will, whilst it can help me learn more words, it might not actually teach me anything about the structure of sentences, because all it does is throw words at you and ask you to translate those words, and it's more like a language game, I find. What has been beneficial to me has been listening to more Italian music, watching Italian shows on YouTube, and also recently I have been trying to listen to more Italian language videos. This all leads up to this Sunday. So on our last day in Rome, no, it wasn't Rome, we'd gone to Venice at this point. In Venice I was feeling a lot better. I was using my Italian the tiniest bit more. There was one time in a cafe where the person was speaking Italian. She told us a few Italian words. We gave her a few English words. It was nice. It was a heartwarming time. But then in the airport back from Venice, I saw a book and I wanted that book. but my mum she really wanted to keep this €50 because she thought if she kept €50, then we could put that towards another holiday. We never have. That €50 is still in a handbag. But the book I saw was this, and it is just Le plus belle storie. No, Le plus belle storie. I'm no good with my Italian, but Antico Roma. And basically, this is a collection of comic books with characters from Disney. And so these are a collection of stories that will talk about ancient Rome. And I found it on Amazon this weekend, and I know we probably shouldn't be supporting that company at the moment, but I could not find these books anywhere else, and I am determined to learn Italian. So I got this, and then I saw something that spoke to me, which is in Giallo. And this, to me, is something to do with detectives, especially since Mickey Mouse, or Topolino, is dressed up as Sherlock Holmes. And apparently there's something in here where Minnie Mouse is going to be Miss Marple. So I'm looking forward to that. I was looking for comic books, and the one that I wanted, flaming heck, was much too expensive. These were still expensive in themselves, but I'm hoping to use them to further my knowledge of written Italian. I'm trying not to overface myself with learning all of the skills of a language at once. However, I do want to mention a few successes with my Italian this week. So I listened to a song, and that might not mean much, anybody can listen to a song, but I was able to understand what was being said in 2 of the verses and the chorus. So basically I just didn't know the bridge, and that was a breakthrough for me. I also this morning managed to read chapter 2 of Harry Potter e la Pietra Filosofale straight through, and whilst I did have to speak some of the paragraphs to understand what was being said, I was able to understand a lot more than I did of chapter 1 a month ago. And that has given me a new confidence, because unfortunately, whilst I am rather fond of my family, my brother isn't the most supportive of me learning Italian. He says he finds it annoying when I speak Italian, so I have to try and not speak it around the house, but that's the only way I'm going to learn it, so I have to do most of my Italian learning when he's not here. And yeah, it's really brought out a strange side I didn't expect to see, in which he asks me what's the point in learning another language? What's my end game with this? And to me, we have this problem in Britain where we expect everybody who comes to this country from abroad to be able to speak English. And we get annoyed if they don't speak English, or if they don't speak English well. However, when we go to their country, we also expect them to be able to talk English well, so that we don't have to put any work in. And I want to revisit Italy. I have wanted to visit Italy since I first got told stories of ancient Rome when I was 7 years old. I got the opportunity to go when I was 23. I did it on the cheap, and I ended up ruining the experience for myself because I was 6 stone heavier, and being such a large person comes with its own anxiety, as well as having anxiety anyway. And not being in the centre of Rome and having to travel on bus and learn all these things, I ruined my own experience. Whereas if I'd known the language, that would have alleviated some of my anxiety somewhat, and also I wouldn't have felt like an ignorant foreigner. I even tried, before I went to Greece, I tried to learn Greek, but that's something you can't try and learn through Duolingo, because Duolingo just throws the Greek alphabet at you and doesn't tell you how to pronounce any of the letters or anything. Italian is a bit easier than Greek, and so I want to revisit Italy, and I'd like to be able to revisit Italy knowing the language. But does that matter to my younger brother? No. And so that means that yesterday I was left feeling somewhat sad and disheartened, because it felt like I didn't have this support there. And I don't know why I feel like I need support in everything, but it just felt like something else I could be mocked for, and it made me a bit sad. I won't lie. I did consider making another video where I spoke Italian. But there is just one major issue here, and it's nothing to do... Well, one, my confidence isn't at its best, and whenever you've seen me speak Italian over the last month, only 2 times, but one clip was at the end of, I think it was my most recent wrap-up, and I think I only talked for about 30 seconds. I spent 5 minutes repeating that sentence over and over. And at the start of my reading Harry Potter in Italian video, I said that sentence a lot of times, trying to build confidence with it. And whilst I know some words, I also have to think about the fact that I'm Northern. I am bloody Northern. And do you know something about Northern England? We don't speak correctly. And so, how I would say something in English is perhaps not how it should be said in English, and it does not translate well to Italian. But I still have my notebook, and would you like to know something about this notebook where I am writing down all of my Italian work? I have basically been keeping something of a diary since the middle of April. Recently, over the last few days, this has been used to review films because, alongside all of the nostalgia that I've been talking about, I have had the greatest want to watch classic films. Films that my grandparents would watch. The Talking Pictures channel has become a firm favourite. I have been recording films every single day, and I have watched 3 of them. I watched Charade with Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant, and that film annoyed me because of the age difference between the 2 actors, and it seems that Hollywood hasn't caught on to that yet, because you're still getting 50-year-old actors being put with 20-something-year-old women, and the audience is expected to believe that relationship. And also the final half hour where they were just running around Paris really irked me. But I watched it. Apparently my mum used to really like that film. I also watched a film called The Man in the Mirror, and I do not know what the main actors in this were called, but Alistair Sim was in it. And I did not like the film. I just didn't. I ended up fast-forwarding through it just to see how everything turned out in the end, because I was bored. And I actually don't remember recording that one. I don't know who recorded it, it just ended up there. And then, this film wasn't something my grandparents would watch. I don't know whether my parents watched it, but I chose to watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I found out that I've actually watched more of that film in the past than I originally believed, and that I don't like it. I don't need to say any more of that. I think that it's become such a pop culture thing that I thought that I would enjoy it more than I did. And I can see why certain people would have appreciated the existence of that film in the past. But for whatever reason, I always feel like musicals have too much music in them. And that's a strange opinion. Why do I bother watching musicals then, you might say? And the answer to that is I have no blooming idea. Shall I talk about me plans for the next week? Oh, that was another thing I wanted to mention. Do you actually want a video about my journey learning Italian 1 month on? Or do you think I've talked about it enough in this video? Because I did consider just saying that over the last month, I haven't listened to any music that isn't Italian. And it tends to be the same albums on repeat, because once I find a singer I like, I kind of just want to memorise all of their songs. And considering I don't know a lot of Italian, it takes me a while to actually figure out what's being said. Also, I know that I mentioned one song by the artist Emma. She mentions this word. I found an Italian word that I really like, paravento. Googled it, looked like curtains. Apparently it means shield. Anyway, what I want to talk about is my next week of reading. So, once I've finished these 3 books that I've got to read this week, I would like to read The Girl Who Wrote Loneliness by Kyung-Suk Shin. Matthew Schropper, been recommending this book for years, and so I'm going to mention his name every time I hold this book up until it gets read. And then I also want to make a start on The Tower Hill Terror by our very own Dane Cobain. And I need to read The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. Those are the next books that I definitely have to read. If I don't, then you won't see me for a while until they're completely finished and over with and got done. Sorry, I just found a pen. I don't know what it's doing in my bed, but it's here. I tried to put it down. Maybe it's a ghost pen. Maybe I'm about to be possessed. It's gone now. Ugh. It's also my sister's birthday this week. Not that you needed to know. I don't think you're going to be sending her any gifts. Been doing a few more walks this week, just around the forest. And yeah, no, I've done 3 walks. 3 walks around the forest. My sister knows routes where people tend not to go. And on Friday or Saturday, Friday it was. On Friday, we went for a walk that was over an hour long. And she decided to take me through some overgrown parts of the forest. It was a good job I'd used my inhaler because it really set off my asthma. And then, to top it all off, because it was overgrown, we had to crawl beneath trees. And some of these routes were not built for the larger person. And whilst I have just mentioned the 6 stone weight loss, which, what does that amount to in pounds? I said that I'd never actually reveal numbers, but I'm revealing numbers. I've lost about £84 and then some on top of that. But even with having lost that weight, I can still not fit through this flaming gap. So I had to lift up one leg. It's a good job my joints are hypermobile. And I had to lift up my leg onto this rock and then kind of slide through. And then, as we get underneath another tree, there's another blasted rock. And so I lift my knee up to get over that, bang my knee on it, and end up with a welt. I tell you, this walking lark, I actually really enjoy it, but yeah, it's nice when you're on walks and you don't see anybody in these current times, but after Sunday's announcement, we did notice there were a lot more people on the roads than usual, and on the walk than usual, and we were having to step aside and allow them to come past, and I don't know what to say, because we see so much misinformation perpetuated, and unfortunately they are now well within their rights to be out, and some people just will never do what's good for themselves. See, that's a few of you are going to leave now because I talked about that. Also, dinner ladies, I finally finished my rewatch. Not that that's a surprise to anybody, because I used to watch that show every single night. Well, the entirety of series 2. When I feel sorry for my nan. I used to put that on about 7 o'clock at night and then watch the entire series over the next 5 hours till midnight, and I just watch it on repeat. I do feel sorry for my nan. Now that I'm older and watching it, I'm noticing things that I've never noticed before, so it felt like a new experience. And also noticing just how dark Victoria would go with some of the stories, and how bloody fast it moves. It's been an experience, and it has inspired me somewhat with my own writing of the final Doris book, and also with my wish to one day write a sitcom. Someone mentioned I should write about my family, but I think that if you've ever watched The Royal Family, or Shameless, or anything that is just about a disreputable working class family, then you can work out what a sitcom about me and my life would be like. Have I rambled on long enough? I think so. I think I'm gonna scarper. So, how are you? What have you been up to? What are you reading? What are you writing? What have you been watching? What have you been listening to? I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and until next time, that is all.